What's going on, pickers and gritters? Tom here today, and we are diving deep into Lynyrd Skynyrd tones, talking about Allan Collins, Gary Rossington, the whole real deal, and what it takes to make some of these tones. So I'll be talking about how I get a Skynyrd sound. It's really not as complicated as you think, and play some really cool Skynyrd tones. Just playing it, kicking off some I Ain't the One right there. I've got my Gibson Firebird out. We'll be going through a variety of Skynyrd style guitars and instruments that they played. And the Skynyrd setup, really simple. Back then, wasn't much of a pedal board thing. Just cranking your Marshall Super Lead, and they eventually went on to PV Mace, which they wired like a Marshall Super Lead. 100-watt head, all the dials maxed out, driving it hard, getting that fat, thick sound. Now, thankfully today, with modern technology, we have the ability to not have to blow our eardrums out and get the same type of sound. So I'm running a Boss Katana Artist Head Gen 3 with a Waza speaker cab and sitting on the Crunch channel. Crunch channel, very versatile, one of my favorites. I got the gain set quite low, and I'm running a little bit of a clean boost behind it just to fatten up the low gain. So Allan Collins tone, very thick, punchy, creamy, not a whole lot of distortion. And this comes out a lot in the One More From the Road album. You can hear from I Ain't the One, but when you listen to some of his studio tones on the album, it's very clean. I mean, you're not hearing like high gain type stuff. When I roll back the volume knob, it cleans up really nicely. So Collins, we're gonna start off with Collins. He played Gibson Firebird in the beginning and played it all the way up through 76. Eventually, he switched off to the Gibson Explorer, which we'll be diving into in a little bit. And he's got that thick, fat, punchy tone. Collins has a more aggressive play style, more of a percussive rhythm style, as seen in songs like Give Me 3 Steps. And when you hear his rhythm style with a little bit more, so his tone overall can be described as very fat, woody, and a lot of that comes down to the Firebird tone itself. This whole one-piece neck through construction in the middle section has a ton of resonance. If you've ever picked up a Firebird and played it acoustically, you can just hear the wood echoing, which I think is really cool. And you get the sense of when you're playing it, it's not a really hot pickup type guitar. Now Collins modified his Firebird because he had the classic 1964 Firebird with the P90s. He threw a P90 in here instead of the unpotted old mini humbuckers. So the P90 gave him a fat, thicker sound. Now modern Firebirds, this is a 2013. It has the ceramic pickups, and they're wound a little bit hotter, so similar to the same heat that Collins would have had in his, but I like them even better because they're creamier than a P90, so it's my type of favorite tone. Just gonna play some more early Collins type stuff. When you're setting up your amp to get a Collins tone, you don't want a biting treble, so we want more of a fat mid-range. And my EQ is set to where it's trebles about 5 or 6. Katana can be a little bit brighter. The mids are at 10, and the bass is around 5 or 6. So you're getting a lot of that mid, low end punch to it. And it gives you something really nice. So when you're playing Collins type stuff, don't try and max out the gain. Set your gain quite low around that middle. If anything, you're going nowhere past 50 or 60% on your amp, because you need just thickness and not gain so much. It's not fuzzy, it's just fat. Now that's my guitar volume right around 5 or 6. Set your rhythm tone using guitar volume about 6 or 7. And that's where I'll set my tone when I roll back the volume knob. I want it to clean up quite nicely. So after coming out of a lead, roll back and go. So it's got that nice roll off, but it still retains the meat, the thickness of the sound. So more Collins. Oh yeah. Love the sound of this Firebird. Too bad they don't make them anymore. Best bet's get the Epiphone Firebird, which they now do the neck through design from what I understand. All right, some more Allan Collins. Ooh. One of my favorite riffs. So sometimes you want to get a little bit of that live feel. You can play in a room with some reverb, like this has natural reverb in here, or you can crank up a little bit of reverb, maybe 3 or 4 on your amp, and we can get a nice tone like this. A little cry for the bad man. Or roll back, and when I'm going almost clean here, and I consider this like Skynyrd live clean, because their live clean has a little bit of just a hair of that gain. But that's because they're using guitar volume to control their stage volume. And that's their lead is on 10, and then their rhythm is rolled back. So when they're going clean, they're basically around 1 or 3. Whereas in the studio, you can do whatever you want. into the pre-lead rhythm of searching. And I roll up to 10 for the lead. And then right back into the rhythm again. And no pedals required to do that. My boost is right here. Set your 10 where you want your lead sound. 10 is where my Collins lead sound is. 6 or 7 is where my Collins rhythm sound is. And then 1 or 3 is where my Collins clean rhythm is. Collins rarely uses the rhythm pickup. He's always hanging out in the Troublesville with a fat, punchy mid-range. Now, Collins kicked it up in '76 with a Gibson Explorer. Let's check it out. This is the newest addition to my Skynyrd guitar collection. Turns out it's the best guitar I've ever felt and I've ever played. It practically plays itself, and I've fallen in love with this thing. People say that the Carina Explorer from 1958 has a darker tone to it. Sure enough, checking this thing out, it's a very resonant body, and it does have a slightly different tone. It's more like a Gibson Les Paul, like a 59 Les Paul, with more access up here, except the tone is just slightly more MIDI, and it's beautiful. So let's listen to this baby. Oh, I just love that sound. Now, contrast the Search in here. Same song, different day. This one's got a little bit more heat than the Firebird. The Firebird's a little thicker. This one has the treble. Now I rolled the tone knob back to about 7 on here to give me some more mids. So. Definitely has a lot more gain to it. And then even on Give Me 3 Steps, you can hear a little bit of darker wood sound. So fat and woody. I ain't the one. You can hear at Nebworth in '76 that Collins had just switched to the Explorer. And you can hear the difference in his sound. It's a lot more woody, punchy. Oh, Good thing we caught this early. There is a loose screw. We don't want that. Good thing we caught that. Oh boy. As is common on these types of guitars, happened with my Firebird, this screw here starts coming out. So I'm just gonna put a little toothpick in there and that should secure the screw. I'll screw it back in, but just don't wanna risk it right now. That is prone to happening on these Firebird Explorer style guitars. So back to where we're talking about with I Ain't the One. Hear the amount of gain, it's a significant amount of gain. That's thinking my way through the sound there and how much more it brings. Same settings on the amp, just a different guitar, much hotter pickups. These are more PAF style pickups. So when I roll this back, it cleans up nice, but it's a little brighter. Comparison of Collins' magnum opus, Freebird, just the intro part of the solo, to show you the difference between the Explorer and the Firebird. It's so clean, so fat, so thick. I love you. I love you. All right, let's take the Firebird out. I don't want to put you down, but. All right, both guitars really sound great. The Firebird, for me, noticeably less gain, less drive, and a lot more woodiness to the tone. The Explorer has plenty of resonance and woodiness, and it has closer to that Les Paul sound with a little bit of the dark mids applied to it. So I love both sounds. I was personally the biggest fan of Collins with the Firebird tone. That One More from the Road sound, just killer. But I love both of them. So let's dive right in now to Gary Rossington. Gary Rossington playing the Les Paul. All right, what's really interesting about Gary's playing a 59 Les Paul. Modified the tuning pegs with Grovers instead of the standard 59 Les Paul tuning heads. And then you got those classic PAFs. These are Gibson custom buckers. This is a Gibson R9, and it is modeled exactly after the guitar Gary would have played. You can really hear the airy openness of the sound, as well as it's got a lot more gain than the Explorer and the Firebird. It's just a hotter, beefier tone, and that's what Gary was known for. I'm gonna kick it off with a little bit of classic Oh yeah, see, look how I went from this clean, crisp crunch all the way into just straight on, giving you a power punch. And that's what's unique about Gary's tone. Think about it, same amps, all rolled on the knobs all the way to 11, different guitars, different sounds. So the 3-guitar attack in Skynyrd, you have 3 very different sounds. Steve Gaines, Ed King were the exception to this. They had a little bit more of a varied taste for their amps and guitars. But between Gary and Allan, it's the same settings with different guitars. Now what's unique about a 59 Les Paul is just how chimey it is and how many tones you can get out of this thing. I use a tone knob all the time. It gives me a ton of different sounds. 59 Les Pauls are known for that airy, open PAF tone. Now, one of the songs that everybody loves, at least on this channel, they want to hear a little I Need You, so. Things are up. Oh, that is cool. Oh, gotta love PFs. That whole ability to get feedback is so much easier. Okay, so you get a sense of the Gary Rossington sound. It's very slow, melodic, soulful. He does play fast. He's known for Call Me the Breeze. honky tonk. Gary, a big fan of using the... So I didn't tell you how to get Gary's sound because you need something with humbuckers. Les Paul style guitar. We're doing the same settings. You take your amp, you floor the mids, you keep the treble between 5 and 7 and bass around 5 or 6. Your gain, you don't have to change the gain. Usually you'll get enough beef with a PAF style humbucker. If you did not have the ability to get a humbucking type guitar, just jack up the gain a little bit and you'll get that Gary sound. But we're going for authenticity here, and it is in the guitars without changing those settings. So we're going to dive into a little bit of something I really think is cool about how they got the sound for Simple Man. It's a clean tone right here. That is a fantastic sound. I got to save that. Okay. So they were using like a Fender style. Gary used the Fender Twin, I believe, on Simple Man with a little bit of reverb. So you get that real shiny, shimmering. Now I can give myself a little more presence here. Just jacking up the... And we're going to go right back into one of my favorites. Another thing, with Gary with the clean sound, he does a rhythm right around 6 or 7. I love the honky tonk. Classic Gary. Double stops. Woo, just straight up blues with some Paul Kossoff mix in there. Double stops with PAFs. You don't, if your pickups are potted, then you're not going to get that airy sound. The airy sound comes right on with these things. They're just so open. You can hear the air with the double stops. I just love Gary's sound so much. I grew up playing Gary Rossington. If you're somebody who's getting into Skynyrd or want to get into just getting better at guitar quickly, learn Gary's parts. You'll get so much education out of that. The leads are slow and soulful. Not all of them, but some of them are slow and soulful where you can learn a lot of pieces. So some of you might be wondering, well, what strings are you playing to get that kind of fat sound? No joke, Skynyrd guys were playing nines except for Ed. Steve even played nines. So this tone is coming from more so the hands, the guitar, the amp, EQ. It's not the string gauge that makes the fat sound. I mean, I switched this, there were 10s on this a year ago when I purchased it. And I just recently put on 9s, and I think it sounds even more lively. All right, so we can't do Gary Rossington without some feedback. That's why I'm going to do my best and try and get some feedback here for one of his classics. Maybe a little bit more volume to do it. Unpotted pickups for the win. You gotta get it just right. Hit that note, like that feedback was real special on that amp peg. A little bit more volume would happen easier. Whiskey bottle! Oh, I set off the ADT alarm again. This happened the other day. My security system went off when I was jamming too hard. It thinks somebody's breaking through the window, which I love the sensitivity of the system. But when you're in the middle of that smell, not acceptable. All right, here we go. Where was I? Ah, yes. I feel like I'm spending a lot more time with Gary. Gary's got a lot more solos going on in Skynyrd. So what's some other cool stuff that Gary plays? Just kind of doing this as a tribute for October 20th. I usually do something each year because I'm a super fan. So another key component to Gary's tone was wearing the flannel, long sleeve flannel, and having a laid back kind of approach. Big key to Allan's tone is the Adidas classic shoes with, you gotta wear the bell bottoms and a short t-shirt of some kind. Those really help the sound out. I mean, you got Tuesday's Gone. I gotta add a phaser effect for that. Everybody's trying to get that sound from what I understand. So let's see if I have it on here. I do have a phaser. Yeah, that's it right there. So what's really interesting about the sound for Tuesday's Gone in the studio, Gary Rossington had a Univibe phase pedal. And Univibe, unique phase pedal, really expensive to get an original one. It's like it's Univibe, but it's a phase. It's like a chorus, a phase. I'm not really sure how to explain the Univibe, but it gives you that depth of the sound and oscillates a little bit. And then you can, sometimes with the Boss Katana, which I like, you can throw in a phase 90 on top of that. Let's see if that does anything. I don't even know what that's gonna do. I just threw in a little bit of phase 90 right here. So that can change the rate of my phase 90. So he used the phase 90 live and then the Univibe in the studio, but we'll combine the two, see what happens. I'm going to roll down the volume a little bit so I can crank the gain just a hair. Turn off the phase 90. So with the phaser on the Boss Katana, I find that I have to give it more gain because for some reason it saps some of the gain that I originally had. Let's just try. There we go. Max out the gain. That's it. Okay. So I've given you a more than sufficient overview of what Skynyrd's doing out there. Such a simple sound, but it seems complicated because emulating the players is really the hard part. Getting into their head, feeling like you're Gary Rossington 1 second. So, got a Les Paul here, I'm going to be Gary Rossington. I'm just going. But contrast that with something like Allan, will roll back a little bit on the knobs here, and I can get Allan's tone just by getting into Allan's head and thinking. Solos, but if I was going to take any solo and put it in the style of Gary, that's what I would do. Maybe add some pinch harmonics in there. It's very cool how you get into the player's head. Think Gary, soulful smooth, Allan, punchy, edgy, aggressive, and percussive. Gary's laying back. Leads, a lot more attack with Allan. Gary, a lot more soulful. Dreamy tones coming out of the lair today. Hello. I know. Where's Steve? Where's Ed? Tom, you don't have the Strat with you right now, and I mean I could break it out, but that's probably gonna be for another day. This is just my strength is more so I can do some Ed, like. that tone. I thought it'd be fitting to close this out with something really cool. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. again for tuning in today, Pickers and Critters. A real fun tone session. I appreciate you hanging out with me. Let me know what you think of the video. You want to see more stuff like this? I'll be happy to post it. I'm a Lynyrd Skynyrd nut, Southern rock nut. Just love diving in on tones and making guitars sound really fat and creamy. Have an awesome week.